And there's a lot of politics in this. We are going to have to change this, or else all the good work that we do in our housing, in our food system, in our energy networks is going to be undermined by the overall political context. It's a daunting task, because I know it's just a struggle to do our projects, but I think we're going to have to tithe part of our time for this overarching political economic issue in order to make it work. And the good news is there's so many more of us now to do this. So, thanks.
Thank you, Rudy. A little sobering, isn't it? It's a big job ahead. Our next speaker is Daniel Ross. He's Executive Director of Nuestras, Raices in Holyoke, and he's recognized as a world-leading social entrepreneur with a lifetime fellowship from Ashoka, the Innovators for Public Good. He has 14 years as Executive Director of Nuestras Raices, a grassroots organization to promote economic, human, and community development in Holyoke through projects relating to food, agriculture, and the environment, and the Solutions Community Development Corporation. During this time, the organization has developed an extensive network of community gardens, a youth farming and leadership program, an environmental justice program, an organic artisan bakery, beginning farmer training, an incubator program with 30 acres of fertile farmland, and construction on the Centro Agricola for community education and business development. He's helped community members start over 25 sustainable small food and agricultural businesses, launched and is board chairman of Energia for profit social enterprise energy efficient services company. He's the founding leader of the Holyoke Food and Fitness Policy Council, which was awarded a $4.5 million Kellogg grant, W.K. Kellogg grant, Foundation grant in 2007, and the Holyoke Youth Task Force and the Pioneer Valley Environmental Coalition, which has been funded by the EPA. He has previous experience working in community health clinics in New Jersey, Florida, and Massachusetts to develop migrant farm worker outreach programs with the East Coast Migrant Health Project. Winner of the Ashoka Fellowship in 2007, the Do Something Brick Award for Community Leadership in 1999, environmental recognition from the City of Holyoke Conservation Commission in 2001, and recognized for leadership by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. He's also a board member and trustee for Western Massachusetts Enterprise Fund, the Trustees of the Reservation, New England Grassroots Environmental Fund, among others. He's also a husband and father of 3 children and a marathon runner, which just makes me tired. Here's Daniel.
Thanks. Who says sustainability isn't sexy? Look at that guy. At least 5 or 6 people that I know of take credit for founding Nuestras Raices, that I know of. And that was before my time, so I don't know really what the truth is. But I give most of the credit to this guy in this picture here named Don Teodoro Ortiz, who's kind of an unlikely hero, especially to talk about here at this workshop with so many prestigious architects and environmentalists and professors. Don Teo was an old man, had about a 3rd grade education, barely literate, very grumpy and crude, big thick Medicaid glasses there, very serious alcoholic. He would call everybody mamones, which is kind of a bad word, and threaten them with his cane. Don Teo grew up in the mountain village of Ay Bonito, Puerto Rico. His family had mango trees and avocado and lemon and banana trees and coffee all growing in their backyard. And he worked on sugar plantations when he was young, cutting the cane with a machete. And he first came to the Northeast U.S. as a migrant farm worker, working in the fields of southern New Jersey and then in the tobacco fields of the fertile Connecticut River Valley of western Massachusetts. And Don Teo and his brothers settled down in Holyoke, Massachusetts, looking for work in the factories. Holyoke's factories once were centers of the world's fine paper industry, earning the city the nickname the Paper City. And these factories had provided waves of immigrants with jobs and opportunities to move literally and figuratively from the tenements of the neighborhood called the Flats up the hill to houses and middle class. But by the time Don Teo and his brothers had got to Holyoke, industry was not the engine it once was, and the factories and jobs had moved south and overseas. Holyoke was still proud, but now a landscape of empty factories, decrepit tenements, and vacant lots. The poorest city in Massachusetts, and one of the poorest cities in the country, and far more than its share of gangs and violence and other social ills. And there was a vacant lot right across the street from the tenement where Don Teo lived. A church had once stood there, but burned down, and the lot was filled with bricks and rubble and trash and illegal activities. Don Teo's first floor apartment, where his brothers would gather to play dominoes every weekend, all weekend long. And Don Teo would buy cases of beer and sell the beers to the dominoes player for $1 each, keeping plenty for himself. They called Don Teo's apartment El Chupon, which loosely translated is the watering hole, and more crudely translated is something else, which I won't mention here. Don Teo didn't play dominoes, so while they were playing, Don Teo would look out the window at the street and at the vacant lot across the street for a number of years. But one day he crossed the street and began cleaning up the lot. He cleared out weeds with a machete. He cleaned out bricks and rubble and trash and needles and even crack vials. He threatened the guys in the chupon with his cane. Ságanse mamoncillos, pónganse a trabajar, until they came out and helped. They traced away the drug dealers, sometimes also with machetes. And with the help of a college student doing their thesis, the gentlemen of the chupon got permission to use the lot as a community garden. And they built fences. They got compost from a local dairy farm. They built a tool shed and painted it the bright colors of Puerto Rico. They planted tomatoes and peppers and cilantro and ajíes dulces and lettuce and gandules, and they made that garden flourish. They're good farmers, and they grew and harvested a lot. They made hot sauce and filled freezers with beans for the winter. They shared with friends and neighbors and sold at the farmer's market. They built benches where they sat in the evenings and shelled their beans, and they told lies about the size of their tomatoes. Not just the men, but the wives. Not the lies about the tomatoes, I don't think. But in total, 30 families worked together in the garden, and they divided it up into plots for each family. And not just the older people work in the gardens. The older gardeners wanted to pass on their knowledge and heritage to children growing up in the city. They set aside a plot in the garden for children and worked with a bilingual science teacher from a neighborhood school who brought children to the garden after school. And they made Don Teo be the teacher, and it was clear that he could not drink the days when he was working with the kids, and he took that very seriously and even stopped drinking altogether, which may have added some months to his life. Don Teo would cross the street to meet the kids at the garden and lean on the fence and instruct the kids in the finer points of planting, pointing with his cane. And these were kids who had grown up in the city and knew nothing of farming. When Don Teo first showed them a tomato plant and said that they were going to plant it and get tomatoes from it, they actually called him a liar. They carefully explained to him that tomatoes come from the supermarket. But they learned, and they were so proud to see their plants grow, happy to bring the tomatoes home and eat them. So many of them eating vegetables for the first time, and very happy to have adult mentors, and very happy to spray people with the hose. Don Teo passed on a couple of years ago from cirrhosis and multiple organ failure, and we held a ceremony in the garden, planted a fruit tree in his honor, and several of the children that he taught were there along with the whole community. And so the legacy of Don Teo is Nuestras Raices, which means our roots, and it's our community-wide approach to sustainability. And the mission of Nuestras Raices is to foster economic, human, and community development in Holyoke through